In this video, I want to share with you briefly what a typical RC for Littles day looks like. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. This is a very effective way of homeschooling because there are several different ways to be efficient when it comes to homeschooling. But when you're in the thick of it, when you have a lot of kids, when maybe you're working from home, whatever it may be, an efficient path is not always the most effective. And what I mean by that is cutting out the busy work that is built into a lot of curriculums. So the Robinson curriculum starts off, it really picks up when kids are reading independently on their own. They have their math facts memorized. So they are starting an RC book list. They are starting Saxon 54 as their first textbook, and they are writing a composition every single day that then you give feedback on and they make their corrections. There's also some vocabulary cards that they should work on before the reading portion. There is some grammar and spelling if you want to add that, as well as some other additional science texts in the bonus section. So the RCA Course of Study doesn't actually give a lot of guidance in the very early years, starting from the very beginning, to get them to that point. It's basically telling you find a good phonics program, use the math flashcards to memorize math facts, and you're good to go. But I know, especially as moms, we want a little bit more of a roadmap, maybe not so much a day-by-day curriculum because that could be really burdensome, but just a little bit more guidance as to what about teaching them basic number concepts and writing things down, number recognition, different things like that, right? Also, when it comes to the phonics, just teaching them how to write their letters, all of that. Are we left to piece it all together ourselves? And as I went through the process over and over again with my 6 kids, I really felt like I got it dialed in as to what was necessary, what was busy work, what was the most effective path, what were the best resources that I could use that ironically were free online. So I put that all together, streamlined it in a course, packaged it up in RC Course for Littles, which stands for Robinson Curriculum for Littles. And the goal of that program is to take you from the very, very beginning when you're just getting started, teaching them how to count, teaching them their ABCs, teaching them how to write, how to do copy work, up until the point where they are ready to start fully the Robinson curriculum independently on their own. Now, they don't start off independently on their own. You have to guide them through that process to get them to that point. And so I realized there could be a lot of questions as to how exactly to go about that. So as someone who has been through the process over and over again 6 times, I hope that this program can answer all of those questions for you. So here I just kind of want to give you a rundown of what a typical session would look like. Again, it does not have to take a lot of time to be effective. And keep in mind that my course includes all of the resources you need to homeschool in those early years. You don't have to purchase anything else unless you want to. So we start off with math because I like to keep it in line with the actual RC day, which is math first, get the hardest subject out first. It's a whole different part of the brain, and then they go on to reading and writing, which is totally different. So I start off RC Course for Littles with the same thing. So I start off their morning session the same way with math. Now they start off just learning how to write basic numbers, and I have a printout on that. And then they move on to the first few lessons of Raise Arithmetic. This is included with RC Online, and the first few lessons that we use are included in my course as well. And it has to do with counting, and it has to do with reading numbers, number recognition. It has to do with you dictating numbers and them writing them down. Only after they are really fluent with all of those things would you move on to showing them basic concepts of how addition, subtraction, multiplication works, and then moving on to math fact memorization. And I have a few different methods as to how to go about that with a math fact guide, a kind of twist on a Charlotte Mason Bible memory system. There's a few different ways. And my favorite also is math wrap-ups. So wherever we're at in their math journey, we work on that for a little bit. I also love to use Raise Arithmetic on my iPad. I use my iPad a lot when it comes to homeschooling because, again, it saves a lot of space. I can very easily erase, keep records, all kinds of things. So when they finish a portion of a lesson, they get really excited and happy about being able to add their initial as to having completed that lesson, and then we move on. Now, when it comes to learning how to read, we start off with the very basics of using free resources from Don Potter as to teach them how to write all of the letters using my favorite, the clock method. Picturing a clock, and you tell them like for A to start at 2 o'clock, and then so on and so forth. They really need to work on that alphabet fluency before they can move on to learning how to read. A lot of parents try to just kind of quickly get into maybe a phonics program without that alphabet fluency, and it can cause a lot of problems. Same thing if you go directly into sight words. So we spend a lot of time first making sure that they are really fluent with the alphabet, and then moving on to alpha phonics, which is also included in RC as well as in my course. This is a free resource. It's fantastic. With that, you can do copy work, dictation. They're doing their phonics lesson. Again, great source to do copy work after that. And again, I like to use it on my iPad because you can really blow it up, the text. You can also, they can write their initials when they're done with that lesson. Then I like to move on to spelling using Educating the Child at Home. This is one of my favorite, I can't really say it's a homeschooling book. It's a very old book. It's by Ella Francis Lynch. I love her methodology. And it's just a very simple way of teaching reading, of teaching spelling from home using letter tiles. So you do that after the alpha phonics lesson in copy work. We work just a little bit on spelling with the letter tiles. This is a nice little break from just constant maybe reading on a screen or on paper and writing on a whiteboard. This is something that they can do with their hands, with the letter tiles, and it really engages their brain. I find it really helps kind of with everything, with spelling. So, because sometimes you can just work on learning how to read, teaching them, and then they're not really great spellers. So this is a great way to ensure that the both kind of go and grow together really well. And a great tip that I learned from Don Potter is to let them get started first on whiteboards. Ideally, a large whiteboard on the wall would be best, but even just a little whiteboard that they can use, if they can learn how to write on this first and then transfer to paper, it will be a lot easier. And I like to end the session on a positive note. It's almost to like a little reward. And if parents have a hard time where they feel like the youngest students are constantly trying to get their attention while they're helping the older kids, I think this is a great way too to kind of pacify that, because at the end of the session, you spend a little quality one-on-one time just reading aloud a book to them. It doesn't have to be a very long book. It could be like a Beatrix Potter individual story, or I have several different board books. Again, it doesn't have to take long, but just kind of that finality to the lesson and you reading aloud a special book together. It's just, again, a great way to end the session. And I also like to do this because I have a lot of older kids. And so my typical read alouds tend to gravitate towards the teens or the tweens. For example, right now we're reading The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. And so I noticed that I don't really read a lot of board books in the evenings aloud. So this is a great way that I can incorporate that with the youngest, just like I used to do with the oldest. And so after that, then they pretty much have free time until lunch, but I try to give a few choices of educational activities. Magnetiles, just to kind of keep them entertained, or the thing with the rubber bands, like tanagrams, I forget what they're called, or counting bears, or I can't think of all the names. Pipe cleaners. Usually that does really well, and some cards with shapes, different things like that. Or they have an option of reading. Maybe they're not full on reading yet, but they can look at pictures or play quietly with Legos. The point is though, they just need to be quiet until lunchtime. And then after lunchtime, we have formal reading time, which again, they can kind of look at picture books or draw or have a quiet activity. And then the rest of the day is, different. 2 to 4, we have free time here at our house. Then it's getting ready for dinner, cleaning up, chore time, final laundry put away, and then evening read aloud time, and then it's bedtime. So that's typically how the whole day runs here at our house, but specifically that's what an RC for Littles session looks like. If you have any questions on this, I will leave a link down below with information on the course. You can see testimonials, you can see exactly what the course outline is. And if you have any questions, you can always feel free to leave a comment down below or reach out to me at my email. Thank you so much. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, I think you would really like this video, but YouTube's algorithm thinks you would like this video instead. So whichever one you choose, I will see you there. Bye for now.